Know who you are. ¿Sabe quién eres? That is the question in this reading. I got a message. I suddenly heard Bob Marley's song Buffalo Soldier in my mind. And as always, I check the lyrics of the songs that I hear in my head or in my ears. And I read the lyrics, and of course the lyrics is it's a topic that is very how can I put it? It's a conflict, you know. It's a topic that is still hurtful, and you know that in history through mankind we have done, unfortunately, our ancestors have done many bad things that we fortunately now reflect upon, and we don't want this to happen one more time, but unfortunately it still goes on, but maybe in a different type of way, you know. So the theme is, of course, about slaves and how they were shipped to this new continent, what was called at one point America. And yeah, they were literally ripped off from their background, ripped off from their history. But I feel that in general this is a message about it's important to know the history behind your family, your ancestral story, no matter where you come from, because there is something about healing the ancestral wound. And of course poverty is one thing, because for example, my family history, we are a long history of farmers, and in the old days it wasn't easy to be a farmer. You were blessed with the weather from the gods, and if you had animals, of course, you were blessed if your animals were healthy. So yeah, there is something about looking into the history of your ancestors and maybe understand your own perception of life. So, but let's see what spirit wants you to know about this at this moment of time. So, as you can see, I've pulled out some oracle cards that can give us the direction about why is it the importance of knowing who you are from an ancestral point of view. And as I channeled the Buffalo Soldier song, you know, that they in a point, you know, after many generations, you don't know, because the history disappears. And of course The African continent looked very different from how it is today. Many of them can write or read, and they lived a tranquil life. Most of them lived a tranquil life in villages, and yeah, suddenly they were ripped away from that, and they maybe didn't even know which part of the continent they were from. So yeah, it's about the conflicted mind, you know, when you are in some kind of identity crisis, I feel. You can look in the mirror and maybe have a perception of where you are from, but you don't know exactly. Yeah, you don't know exactly where. So, okay. Without further ado, let's see. The masculine principle presents a stage of reconciliation with the masculine. Interesting. Interesting start, but to me it almost looks like you come out of this bear. Looks like you're born out of this bear or something. To me this is this image is like, you know, the bears, they hibernate throughout the winter. They hibernate, they go into caves or a tranquil place. And yeah, when I'm doing this reading, we are in fall season, and I think this is the moment of time when the bears in my home country goes into hibernation and they sleep until springtime again. And that is many months. So maybe you have been hibernating, and now it's the point of time that you finally come out of this hibernation and understand. It looks almost like the blood of the veins, right? You understand, you're starting to realize where you come from, where you're understand your ancestors, maybe acknowledge more, maybe you have been rejecting your ancestral inheritance. There's something about rejecting your ancestral inheritance. Or maybe, as for me, maybe I don't know much about my ancestors actually, even though I've read in the books, of course, their name in church books, their names and who they married and how many children they got. As far as I could as far as I could see, in at least in one side of part of my family, but I didn't get a chance to ask how were they like as a person. Were they interested in spiritual things, etc., etc., you know? Because the old generation, for me now, unfortunately, are dead. And the generation that are still alive, I'm not sure if they either asked the past generation of those kind of questions. So, okay, let's see further on. Be assertive. Be confident. Yeah, be confident about who you are. Embrace Embrace your ancestral heritage. Embrace. I feel that this is like being authentically you. And if you don't feel like you are from, you know, the heritage lineage, right? But you yourself, it doesn't mean that you yourself feel that you come from planet Earth, right? You are all star seeds in some form or shape. And we have, most of us have lived many lifetimes here on Earth. And you have the knowledge, even though you are not fully aware of it. You have the knowledge from past lives. And you also have the knowledge of actually where you actually come from. To me, it was a revelation when I figured out what kind of starseed I was, and it made me understand the feeling of not feeling at home, always seeking some place where I could feel at home. Let's see, big happy changes. Interesting. You're surrounded by the colors of the rainbow here, at least. But yeah, when you come out of this cave finally, and you embrace the story of your family, and you embrace the story about you realize things about yourself, that is when the shift will happen. When you acknowledge yourself, right? For me, when I finally acknowledge this, my gift of reading energies and reading and channeling through tarot and oracle cards, and channel through the lyrics of songs, because that is lately that has been my drive for the readings now, because I have channeled different types of songs, and maybe that is something I have been puzzling a little bit about, because I have never had I have never had exactly a favorite genre. I have listened to all types of music, and I have, except from, I really love Madonna, and she's versatile, you know? She adapts easily through different types of genres. So maybe that is why I have been supportive of her music. But nevertheless, I've never been solely into, for example, rock, or solely into pop, or solely into rap. I've always been versatile, and I've always listened to all types of music. And I realize now that the reason why is because I needed that to do this channeling for you. So let's see. Yeah, coming out of your cave. This reminds me almost like Aladdin's, the magic carpet in Aladdin, you know? Looks like you are sitting on a magic carpet and riding out. You finally, with the sun in your solar plexus, you finally realized who you are, and you're turning your face away from the people that has maybe tried to convince you and that you are someone else. I've experienced that through my whole life. People that are trying to put me in boxes, and they have decided that this is the person that she is, and then I surprise them, and I show myself as a totally different person, and that surprises them, because they maybe have thought that they could control me in some way or form. But maybe, as I said, with the music of Madonna, she's versatile. She is not put in some type of genre, right? So, yeah. So let's see. Just have to put it up a little bit so we can see. Okay. Two of Pentacles. The Page of Cups. And the Hermit. Beautiful. Okay, so, with the Two of Pentacles here. Yes, you have been struggling with finding your own identity, you know. Maybe you have been struggling and changing conception many times. Maybe in one point you thought you were maybe drawn more to earth, and on the other hand, maybe you were drawn more to the outer space, ether, you know, the star seeds. So you have been feel in an identity crisis. But when you realize that you don't have to be in any type of shape or form, you are just, when you acknowledge that you just, by being yourself, even though you have things upside down, you don't feel like your life is a streamline, you know, from A to Z. And I don't think that most of people's lives are like a streamline from A to Z either way, but I feel that maybe the earthly life is some type of, the conception of the earthly life is some type of this conception. But when you realize the magic in your life, big happy changes happen, of course, and you can accept that this travel is all your own travel, because that is what this journey is all about. Even, as I said, the example of twins, they look identical, but even twins have separate journeys. So it's the experience, and when you acknowledge that when you don't, because this card is also about comparing yourself with others. When you realize that Life is not a competition, and you don't have to compare yourself with anyone. That is when you're shining bright and the big happy changes happen. Yeah, and when you realize that things will rock and roll and move in a fast paced tempo. Yeah, fast-paced tempo. So yeah, embrace, as I said, your ancestral heritage, your ancestral lineage. Don't reject it anymore. And of course, when you understand where you come from, of course, as I said, you also acknowledge your previous lives. That is when everything will change. Okay, I thank you so much for watching this interesting message, and I see you again in another reading very soon. Bye for now.